Ever wondered how a real estate mogul from Queens managed to ruffle so many Canadian feathers? Trump's presidency wasn't just headlines south of the border, it sparked some serious debates up here, eh? These weren't just political squabbles. They touched our economy, our identity, and even our maple syrup supply chains, it felt like. We're talking about a relationship tested, treaties challenged, and some downright awkward moments that had Canadians from coast to coast scratching their heads. Want to understand the real story behind the headlines? This examination explores 5 key instances where Trump's decisions impacted Canada, offering a clear and concise look at the facts. Gain insights into the long-term effects and the lessons we can draw from this unique chapter in North American history. It's general knowledge every Canadian should know, and maybe even some Americans too. Canada and the U.S. Historically, a relationship built on trade, shared values, and, generally speaking, being pretty good neighbors. But things got a little frosty. The Trump years presented Canada with unprecedented challenges, forcing us to reconsider our reliance on a single trading partner and reevaluate our place on the world stage. The problem: a protectionist agenda that threatened our economic security and long-standing agreements. We needed to understand the nuances of these policies to safeguard our interests and navigate a changing global landscape. Consider the auto industry, dairy, farming, or even the price of beer. These are just a few examples of how decisions made in Washington, D.C. Canadian livelihoods. This content aims to break down these complex issues, providing the general knowledge needed to understand these pivotal moments and their lasting consequences on Canada. Visual aids showcasing trade statistics and geographical impacts could enhance understanding. Want more on Trump and Canada? Subscribe now for general knowledge updates. Share your own stories and questions about those years in the comments below. Your insights are important. Let's keep the conversation going, together. What did you think about all that trade talk? So, how do we unpack those 5 moments Trump got Canada's goat? First, understand the specific policy at play. NAFTA renegotiations, steel tariffs, Keystone XL, and so on. Then, consider the Canadian perspective. What were the arguments made by Canadian politicians, businesses, and citizens? What were the immediate and long-term economic impacts? Finally, look at the bigger picture. How did these events affect Canada's relationship with the U.S. and its standing in the world? For example, with the steel tariffs, try to see it from the point of view of a Canadian steelworker who depends on the trade. This perspective can help in understanding the problem and its effects on the Canadian society. By examining each incident through these lenses, we can gain a more nuanced understanding of a complex and often turbulent period in Canada-U.S. relations. Why? Is understanding Trump's impact on Canada important right now? Because trade negotiations are always ongoing, and the threat of protectionism hasn't disappeared. We're seeing new trade tensions globally, and Canada needs to be prepared. The problem is a lack of public awareness about the intricacies of Canada-U.S. relations. This makes us vulnerable to misinformation and hinders informed decision-making. Consider the upcoming U.S. election. Its outcome could significantly alter trade policies, energy agreements, and even border security. Understanding past conflicts helps us anticipate future challenges and advocate for policies that benefit Canada. Knowing how Trump got Canada's goat equips you to engage in informed discussions, hold our leaders accountable, and protect our national interests. It's about being a savvy Canadian citizen in an increasingly unpredictable world, eh? To truly understand the goat-getting, we need to grasp some key concepts. First, protectionism. The policy of shielding a country's industries from foreign competition through tariffs and quotas. Think of it like building a wall around our economy. Next, trade agreements. legally binding pacts that outline the rules for trade between countries. NAFTA, USMCA is a prime example. Then there's national security exemptions, clauses in trade agreements that allow countries to impose restrictions for national security reasons. Was Trump's use of this clause justified, or was it a pretext for protectionism? Finally, retaliatory tariffs. Tariffs imposed by one country in response to tariffs imposed by another. This can quickly escalate into a trade war, hurting everyone involved. Visual aids like charts showing tariff rates and trade volumes could be helpful here. So, how can we apply this knowledge? Well, understanding protectionism helps us analyze current trade disputes and their potential impact on Canadian jobs and prices. If you're a business owner, it means diversifying your export markets to reduce reliance on the U.S. Understanding trade agreements allows you to advocate for policies that promote free and fair trade. Write to your MP. Recognizing national security exemptions allows you to critically evaluate government decisions and hold them accountable. Are they really about national security or something else? And knowing about retaliatory tariffs helps you anticipate potential price increases and adjust your spending habits accordingly. It's about being an informed consumer and a responsible citizen. Looking at advanced strategies, Canada needs to actively diversify its trade relationships, building stronger ties with countries in Europe and Asia. This reduces our dependence on the U.S. market and mitigates the impact of future trade disputes. Consider the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, with the European Union. This agreement provides Canadian businesses with access to a vast new market, offering an alternative to the U.S. Furthermore, Canada needs to invest in innovation and technology to become more competitive in the global economy. This will make us less vulnerable to protectionist measures and more resilient to economic shocks. To back this up, consider research from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. Their studies show that the steel and aluminum tariffs cost the Canadian economy billions of dollars and led to job losses in affected industries. This wasn't just abstract policy, it impacted real people. Furthermore, experts at the Conference Board of Canada have warned that relying too heavily on the U.S. market makes us vulnerable to economic shocks south of the border. Diversification is key. Anecdotal evidence from Canadian business owners who struggled during the trade wars paints a stark picture of the real-world consequences of protectionism. These aren't just numbers. They are stories of resilience and adaptation. The data clearly shows that understanding these challenges is crucial for Canada's economic future. So, what are the key takeaways? First, Canada-U.S. relations are complex and constantly evolving. Second, protectionism poses a real threat to the Canadian economy. And third, diversification is essential for our long-term prosperity. Remember that study we mentioned. Turns out, diversifying our trade by just 10% could offset a significant portion of the losses from those tariffs, eh? Even if those numbers are a little fuzzy, it's clear. But most important of all, active engagement is super crucial. Write to your representatives, join industry groups, promote trade, and make sure your voice is heard. All right, let's recap. We've explored 5 key moments when Trump's policies impacted Canada, highlighting the importance of understanding protectionism, trade agreements, and diversification. So, what's next? Start by researching Canada's trade agreements and identifying opportunities for your business or career. Support Canadian businesses that are actively diversifying their export markets. Finally, stay informed and engaged in the political process. Your voice matters. By taking these steps, you can contribute to a stronger, more resilient Canadian economy. Share this knowledge with your friends and family too. The more informed we are, the better equipped we are to navigate the challenges ahead. So, as we reflect, On those 5 moments, remember that Canada's strength lies in its adaptability and its commitment to open and fair trade. While the Trump years presented challenges, they also provided valuable lessons. It's a reminder that a strong, independent Canada is more important than ever. By staying informed, engaged, and proactive, we can ensure a prosperous future for generations to come. Keep exploring the nuances of Canadian-American relations, because this complex dynamic shapes our country in profound ways. It's a story that's constantly unfolding, and we all have a role to play in shaping its next chapter.